At first glance, this case may seem clear to many, but beneath the surface lies a deep, painful story. A story of emotions, poor decisions, and the gradual breakdown of a relationship. This is not a complex legal puzzle. No, it is the natural outcome of two people who weren't fully prepared for love. People often assume that more drama means more complexity, but in reality, that is not the case. When emotions spiral out of control, situations can quickly escalate, even when the root cause is painfully simple. That is exactly what happened here. It began with love, but ended in mistrust, disappointment, and ultimately a legal battle. For that reason, this case is not just about the law. It is also a profound study of human behavior. This is where the foundation of everything is laid. This story centers on two people, Mr. Blair and Ms. Hill. They had been together for nearly 3 years, which by any standard is a deep and serious commitment. During that time, they believed they truly understood each other. They spent time together, shared dreams, made plans, and imagined a future side by side. Gradually, the relationship reached a point where they began considering building a life together. But here arises an important, almost haunting question. Did they truly understand each other, or were they simply mistaking familiarity for love? The answer to this question would ultimately shape the entire case. Over those 3 years, they had learned to rely on each other, which made their relationship feel deeper, stronger. But dependence can sometimes mask the cracks in understanding. They may have believed they were truly compatible, but the reality had yet to fully reveal itself. Distance often hides problems, making them easier to overlook. And for that very reason, they made a major decision. They believed that living together would solve everything, but that decision, they would soon discover, would change the course of their lives in ways they never imagined. Deciding to live together was the biggest step in their relationship. They rented an apartment and signed a 1-year lease, which was a clear commitment. It wasn't just an expression of love, it was also a sign of taking on responsibility. They believed that living together would make their relationship stronger. However, they didn't realize that real life isn't as simple as it seems in theory. Living together every day means seeing every side of each other, and that's where the real test begins. This decision ultimately put their relationship under pressure, and from that point on, the slow breakdown began. After moving in together, small issues in their daily lives started to grow into bigger problems. Things they once ignored began to turn into regular sources of conflict. Differences over habits, time, and division of responsibilities all started to surface. At first, these disagreements were minor, but over time, they built up. Neither of them made a real effort to resolve the issues properly. Instead, emotions kept piling up until they eventually exploded. As a result, their relationship began to weaken. Within just 3 months, the situation spiraled out of control, and from that point on, the path toward a major conflict was set. By August, the accumulated tensions erupted into a major argument. This became the most critical turning point in their relationship. After this fight, they could no longer continue as they had before. Mr. Blair realized that the situation was heading in a dangerous direction, so he tried to remain calm and removed himself from the conflict. He moved to a separate room to prevent the argument from escalating further. This was a mature and rational decision. He wanted to diffuse the situation without confrontation. However, his calm and restrained behavior was perceived as weakness by the other party. In contrast, Ms. Hill reacted differently to the situation. Instead of calming down, she became even more agitated. Her pent-up anger and frustration began to surface. Rather than diffusing the tension, she intensified it, widening the gap between them. Misunderstandings replaced genuine understanding. This emotional state laid the groundwork for the events that followed. At that point, the relationship was no longer on a path toward resolution, it was heading straight toward destruction. On August 28th, a major argument broke out between them in a parking lot. This was not just a single incident, but an explosion of pent-up emotions. Anger, pride, and frustration all collided at once. The situation quickly spiraled out of control. Small issues became magnified, and reasoned thinking was nowhere in sight. This argument set the stage for everything that followed. From here, the situation became even more dangerous, and the tension did not subside. The argument from the parking lot carried directly into their home, making the situation even worse. The house, which was supposed to be a safe space, turned into a battleground. Neither of them could control themselves at that point. The anger from outside intensified inside, escalating the conflict further. It was a dangerous situation because all boundaries had been crossed. In that environment, anything could have happened. And at that very moment, the situation reached its peak. In this situation, Mr. Blair retreated to his own room, closing the door to keep himself safe. It was a self-protective measure. He wanted to avoid further conflict. But the problem didn't end there. Miss Hill did not let him be alone. She kept pounding on the door and shouting. This escalated the situation even more. Personal boundaries were completely violated, and from there, fear began to take hold. This behavior was not just an argument, it was an act of intimidation and fear. Mr. Blair no longer felt safe. He realized the situation was becoming dangerous, so he made an important decision. He called 911. This was a significant step. Typically, people only call the police when they genuinely feel threatened. This decision became the turning point of the entire case. From here, the legal process began. Once the police arrived, the situation changed. The matter was no longer just a personal argument, it had turned into a legal case. At this point, everyone's statements became crucial. This is where the biggest turning point occurred. Miss Hill made a serious accusation to the police. She claimed that she had been pushed. This single statement shifted the entire incident in a new direction, and from here, the problem deepened even further. Based on this accusation, the police were compelled to take action. Physical assault claims are taken very seriously, so Mr. Blair was arrested. He was shocked, especially since he was the one who had called the police. Yet, the situation turned against him. He had to post a $2,500 bail to secure his release. This was not just a financial loss, it also caused emotional stress and personal humiliation. This marks the beginning of the harm he suffered. But the story doesn't end there. The real truth comes out later in court. There, Ms. Hill admits that Mr. Blair's account of events was accurate. This confession changes the entire course of the case because it doesn't align with her earlier accusation. This creates a significant inconsistency, which is extremely important in the eyes of the law. It is from this point that the truth gradually comes to light. On one hand, there is an admission of the truth, and on the other, there is the complaint made to the police. Both cannot be true at the same time. This makes it clear that a lie has been told, and as a result of that lie, a person was arrested. This is not just a mistake, but a serious offense, as it constitutes an abuse of the legal system. Here, the core issue of the case becomes clear, and the process of determining responsibility begins. The court then carefully analyzes the entire situation. They examine how a false complaint caused real harm. This didn't just affect one individual, it impacted the entire legal system. Because of this, the court treats the matter seriously. They understand that this is not an ordinary quarrel. Rather, it is a question of accountability. And it is at this point that the judicial process deepens. Next comes the assessment of damages. Mr. Blair not only paid the bail, but he also endured significant emotional stress. His reputation and personal life were also harmed. All of these factors are taken into consideration because the law does not only look at the incident itself, it also examines its impact. And it is here that the question of compensation comes into play, which becomes a crucial part of this case. At the same time, the matter of the security deposit is also considered. The $1,600 deposit is returned, which both parties had contributed equally. Therefore, it is divided equally. Here, no emotions or personal opinions are taken into account. Decisions are made solely based on the facts. This demonstrates the impartiality of the law, and fairness is upheld in this aspect as well. The issue of Mr. Blair leaving the apartment first also comes under discussion. However, the court recognizes that he made this decision out of necessity, as the situation was not safe for him. Therefore, it was not used against him. On the contrary, it strengthens his position, showing that he intended to avoid the conflict and act responsibly. This case raises a significant ethical question. Can the law be used as a personal weapon? The court's answer was clear: no. The law exists to provide protection, not for revenge. In this case, that boundary was crossed, and the consequences were evident. It sends an important message to society about the proper use of legal authority and the dangers of misusing it for personal grievances. If such behavior goes unpunished, it sets a dangerous precedent. That's why the court took the matter seriously. They wanted to ensure that no one dares to engage in such actions in the future. Here, the responsibility of the justice system becomes clear, and this case serves as an example of fulfilling that responsibility. After considering everything, the court reached a final decision. They determined that the responsibility for the false accusation rested with Miss Hill, since her statement had created the entire situation. She must bear the consequences of that responsibility. This was a rational and evidence-based decision. As compensation, Mr. Blair was awarded a monetary payment. This helped to cover some of his financial losses. While it could never fully make up for the emotional damage he suffered, it was still a fair and just measure. It served as recognition of the wrong that was done to him. In the end, the court awarded Mr. Blair $3,300. This marked his victory in the case. On the other hand, Miss Hill lost and had to bear the responsibility for her actions. It was a clear outcome, one where truth ultimately prevailed. The final lesson of this case is extremely important. Decisions made in the heat of emotion can cause significant damage in life. A false accusation harms not just one person, but the entire system. Therefore, truth, self-control, and responsibility are the most crucial elements. In the end, justice always stands on the side of evidence.